Hello, everybody. It's a very exciting time. We have just hit 500 subscribers on the channel. Five. In an effort to appear more professional, now that I have 500 subscribers, I have improved my lighting situation a little bit by putting a light in front of me. So, there you go. Anyway, I'm really happy to have 500 subscribers. I didn't think I'd get here so quickly or at all. So, thanks very much for subscribing to the channel. And today, for my 500 subscriber special, which is what this is, I'm going to be making a video about all of the VST synths that I have, and I'm going to be rating them all. So I got this idea because I like to do challenges where I only use one synth that I have, and I've been making a track just using Massive X, which I haven't really used properly since it came out, but I started using it to make this track. I'll show you the track. Here it is. Anyway, that's like the build-up section. But I was thinking when I was making that track, I was like, well, why don't I make a video about all of the VST synths that I have and why I like them or don't like them as much. I have acquired quite a lot. I'm just going to take the master effects off here. I have acquired quite a lot of VST synths, as I'm sure many other people have, due to like things being on sale, or I bought like a package that I wanted something in, and I have way too many now. And now instead of getting new ones, I'm trying to like whittle them down and use less because I feel like I have too many. So I ranked them all myself, and I said, why don't I just share with everybody what I think of all the synths? So if you're here to see a particular synth, I'm going to start with the ones I like the most, and then I'm going to end with the ones I like the least, so that if you don't want to watch the whole video, you get the cream of the crop at the start, and then it'll gradually devolve into things I don't like as much. I really don't have anything too negative to say about any of this stuff, but yeah, so I've ranked them here. You can see I've got them all stacked in an instrument selector here, so I'll just scroll down through them so you can make sure that if there's something synth in particular that you're interested in, you can see if it's here or not. So I'm just scrolling down here. So you can see pretty much everything that I've gotten there. I'm just going to go through in a row and talk about the features that I like. I'll spend a couple of minutes on each one. This will be a long video, so if you don't want a long video, this will be a long one. Also, this is not objective in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to be like measuring saw waves against each other or comparing things, seeing how much aliasing they're doing. I'm just going to be talking about whether or not I like them and why. So if you want me to be super objective, there are probably other videos that are going to do that, but this one isn't. So number one, which is my favorite synth. Also, there's one more qualifying remark. I have only put things in that are like sound generators. So like I've put Break Tweaker in here because Break Tweaker has a synth engine that you can use along with your drums or whatever. But I haven't put like Battery in here because Battery is just a drum machine that plays samples. I'm not putting Contact or anything like that in here because even though you can like do wavetable synthesis and stuff in Contact is a sampler. And plus, if I put Contact in here, it would probably just be first, even though I hate it because I use it so much, but I hate the GUI. I think that's all the qualifying statements that I have to make, just because people get angry if you don't make them. So, number one, my favorite synth is Rapid. So, Rapid I bought like a year ago, I think. And up until that point, I was using like Serum a lot. This sort of replaced Serum for me in a lot of ways. Even though Serum is still way better if you want to do any kind of wavetable editing or anything like that, I prefer the sound of Rapid, and yeah, I just like it a lot. So I'm just going to show you some of the things that I like about it. All the filters sound really good, so that's probably the number one thing. They've got like these low pass ones that sound great, and then they've got these low pass pro as well that sound really good as well. Anyway, that is a big reason that I like it so much. I really like the filters. Then you've got like an insert section that you can put before or after the filter. That all sounds really good as well. Like the distortions and all of the effects in this sound really, really good. So I'll just pop a filter through that so you can hear it. So yeah, sounds really good. Yeah, the unison in here sounds really, really good. You can stack up to 3 oscillators on top of each other that can all have individual unison on them. You can stack up to 8 layers of those 3 oscillators on each other, and you can send between them. There's like a send effect down here that you can use to send. Where is it? Yeah, there's like a send effect here, and you can send this off to the different layers through that. You've got a mixer here on the main like preset page, and that like lets you mix between the oscillators and stuff like that. So there's a lot of flexibility with it. You've got this compressor here, which is like sort of like a built-in OTT style multi-band compressor with different preset types for different kind of stuff. So you can really get like a super finished sound out of this. One of the effects, all of the effects in this are really good. The effects in this are probably my favorite in any synth that I've used. The ones that are standout in here is you've got this multi-band saturator. So this multi-band saturator, you can have up to 4 bands, and they've got all of these different algorithms in here for distortion. And you can control the drive for each band individually. There's another effects parameter here that like just changes. If it's like a bit crusher, it'll do the bit reduction. If it's you know, some sort of a wave shaper, it'll change the wave shape. And the other thing that particularly stands out with this synth is the reverb. So the reverb here. Reverb sounds really good, particularly these new ones that we're at it recently. You've got Nuclear, Solar, Nova, and Space. They sound really good. Let's just turn down the output. So yeah, reverb sounds great. Unison sounds great. It's an overall great synth. Can't really go too in depth with it, but that's my favorite synth that I use probably the most. The second one I've got here is the drum machine in Bitwig. Now I've included this because I feel like it kind of is a sound generator, because you've got like the E-kick and stuff in here. The one that kind of stands out for me is the hats. I feel like this is so much more advanced than all of the other drum modules. This is the one that I use the most. You can create pretty much any hat sound that you'd want with this. It's got like FM hits and a comb filter generation and all sorts of stuff in there. So the main reason that I added the drum machine is, beyond being able to put the drum modules in there, you are able to stack a bunch of samplers on top of each other, so you get all the power that is in the Bitwig sampler and stuff like that. This video isn't about samplers, but I kind of felt like it would be unfair not to include the drum machine in here, Bitwig's drum machine, which I use in every track. So then my second favorite synthesizer is definitely Hive from Uhi. I've been using this synth pretty much since it came out in version 1. At the time, I didn't think I had any third-party synths. I was just using the stock stuff that was in probably FL Studio at the time. I think I was using FL Studio. And Yeah, I think this is the second, because I bought Zebra first, and then I was looking for like a kind of simple virtual analog synthesizer with really good sound and unison, so I can make big trancy kind of chords and stuff like that. And yeah, I ended up buying Hive 1, which I loved, and they recently updated it to Hive 2. I still kind of use it like it hasn't changed much. Like, they've added wavetables and stuff. I don't really use this synth for that. The wavetables sound really good. They're different to how regular wavetables are done, where it's like a sample that's played back in different frames. As far as I know, the wavetables that are in here are actually coded. You can code them yourself, but they're done in like some proprietary scripting language that Hive then reads. So wavetables are pretty much as high fidelity as you can get. My favorite features about this synth, Rapid I use for if I want to do something wavetable-y with really good effects. If I want to do anything that's virtual analog, I pretty much use Hive. And the reason for that is Hive has probably the best sound in unison that I've heard in any synth. So you've got up to 16 voices here. And it just sounds really, really, really good. Really wide. It sounds really good in the lower registers as well, which a lot of synths don't. It's got 3 different synth engines, so it's kind of like you get 3 different synths in one because they sound completely different. I think the unison algorithms are different in each one, so it's pretty subtle. Where you notice the biggest difference with the synth engine is in the filter. So I'm just going to take off the unison here, and we'll turn on the low pass filter. So at first it seems like there's a pretty limited amount of filters in here, because you've got like your 24 dB low pass, 12 dB low pass, band pass, high pass, band reject, and peaking. But actually you've got 3 times that, because the filters sound completely different in each one. So dirty I find is much better for bass, and then normal and clean are much better for like chord sounds, or if you want it to sound like super digital when you're doing wavetable stuff. I don't really use that much, to be honest, but that is what they kind of sound better for. So there's a couple of cool things with this synth. So first of all, the filters do sound really good. You've got this input level here, so you can drive into the filter. And then you've got completely different sound with the so I'll switch to the dirty algorithm. So that's much more overdriven. And then the clean filter, I think, is much more resonant. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to spend all days playing with the filter. That's my favorite thing about this synth. All 3 of the filters have got really good character. It's got really good unison. I mostly use this as a virtual analog synth. There is really cool things that you can do with the sequencer. It's kind of like Massive's Performer down here. You can do a bunch of stuff with that. Again, I don't really use it for that, but it's all there. This is probably the synth I use the most. So out of every track, I think this probably shows up the most. It's a really low CPU use as well. That's why I like it. So I'm going to move on from Hive now. Maybe I should show something about the wavetables. Okay, I'll really quickly show about the wavetables, because I feel like it's kind of unfair not to do that. So you activate the wavetables by selecting wavetable here, and then you've got all of these different algorithms. So they sound really good. I'll just show you an example of how clear these are. So yeah, you can also break the wavetables up into different sections and play through them, and like you can go horizontally and vertically, so it's kind of like a 3D conceptualization of how you would move through wavetables. Not going to talk about that too much. That's Hive. Hive is probably the synth I use the most. It's also got a really good arpeggiator. But not my favorite one. My favorite one is in Rapid. So, next is Massive X. Massive X is probably the synth that the most people thought they would like and then hate it. And I also felt that way. Massive X is like... it's like the most beautiful, flawed, individual synthesizer. It's the best sound of any VST synth that I've heard, in my opinion. The filters are insane. The unison sounds really good, though there is a gripe I have with the unison. The oscillator effects are just phenomenal. It's such a good synth. Some of the problems with it uses way too much CPU for what you're doing with it. It's super inefficient. The GUI gets really slow, and it takes ages to open up. The preset browser is awful. It's just no other way to say it. It's the worst preset. It's worse than the original Massive. It's worse than FM8. It's worse than synths that are 10 years old. It's just absurd that it's that bad. That's another thing with Yuhi synths that I feel like I should have covered, but I'll cover it in Zebra. The preset browser is great. But the other problems people have with it the other problem I have with it is the unison. I really, really hate that you can't put unison on individual oscillators, that you have to put it on the whole synth. I just don't see why that is. And I've read through the manual and I can't find a way to like just put unison on individual oscillators, but apparently you can't do it. So that I hate. But the filters sound so good. Some complaints other people have that I don't are a lot of people aren't happy with the visualization of like the envelopes and stuff like that. I don't really care that much. It's fine. I like that they've updated it now so you can see the shape of the envelope. I find that like kind of helpful. That wasn't a huge problem for me. The other thing that people really don't like is that you can't make your own wavetables in here. I don't really care about that either. I have other synths that you can make wavetables in. I guess if this was your only synth, you'd probably want it to be able to do that, but sometimes I think it's better to have the limitation of not being able to do that and just explore what's there. I mean, how much variation can you get from actually making wavetables beyond, I feel like you can get more variation from working with the effects and the wavetables that are there and finding out creative ways of using them. I don't feel like every synth has to have a wavetable editor just because Serum does. But yeah, people don't like that. That's pretty much all that I don't like about it, though, is the unison and the preset browser. It's kind of sluggish. Other than that, I love it. These performances are really cool. This is like their version of an MSCG. It's kind of clunky to work with compared to other ones, but it is actually really powerful. Might even be the most powerful. You can key switch these as well, which is really cool with the lower octaves. So that's something that you can't do in many things. And what's my favorite feature? Yeah, I'm just going to show off some of the... I feel like I'm spending way too long on each synth, but fuck it. Some of my favorite features with this is the oscillator modes, editor modes, whatever you call them. It's like oscillator effects, maybe. So you've got like the standard ones like bend and mirror and all that. Yeah, some people don't like that you can't see what it's doing to the waveform. Again, I don't really mind that, but... So these are really cool. You've got really weird ones like Gorilla. And there's each of them has a bunch of different modes. So this has got King, Anyway, they sound really cool. that's why I don't really care about not having the wavetables, because I kind of feel like editing your own wavetables is in many ways less useful than having a bunch of cool modifiers to put on the oscillators. But however, you've got this noise oscillator, which is fine. You can mix in noise. There's a bunch of different samples here. You can add your own folder. You know, you can do that in a lot of sense. A lot of people want like a fully featured sampler in here. That would be cool, I suppose. The effects are insane. The only thing I don't like is I feel like the distortions are a bit tame compared to other synths, but in general the effects are really good, especially the reverb. There's a bunch of different ones in here. Sometimes notes stick as well. It's just part of Mass Effect. I kind of accept all of its flaws because it sounds so good, but there's a bunch of different reverb algorithms in here. Anyway, it's got loads of good sound and reverb, and it's also got loads of weird sound and reverbs. Then the other big thing is the routing in here. The routing's pretty cool. Let me just set it to the init where nothing is set up. You can see the terrible browser. Okay, so this is blank. So I'm not going to go too into it, but I am going to explain it a bit. So you've got your oscillators here. You've got your noise oscillators. These are like your sound generation. Then everything here is labeled, so you can see F is for filter. So you've got your filter here. And then you can turn your filter on and go through all these crazy filter shapes, which it also has the best selection of filters I've ever seen. Even better than Serum, because Serum's there's a lot of doubling, but I really think all of the ones in here sound unique. Anyway, you can select whatever filter type you want, and then you can say put oscillator 1 through the filter, and then not put oscillator 2 through, and then have oscillator 2 be your auxiliary source for FM, so you can FM oscillator 1 by oscillator 2 with this auxiliary source. You could have the noise just coming here and going straight out without hitting any of the effects, and you could say have the you could, after the filter, you could have it go into the feedback, and then you could feed that back into the filter again, right? And then you could put, say, you know, you've got A, B, C, these are your effects, so you could say put that through the A effects, which you could have set up as, you know, distortion, and you could have that go in parallel, so you could have a clean signal going to the feedback, and then also this distorted signal here going straight out to your, say, your reverb or whatever you've got set up on these X, Y, Zs. Then you can change the so it's basically really flexible. You can also have extra oscillators in the effects section, so you could say take, you know, if you wanted a sub bass, you could have oscillator B be an extra oscillator, and you could send that out without it hitting any effects with the noise oscillator. It's really flexible. So Mass Effect's really good, sounds great, really good. Next is Polygrid. So Polygrid is Bitwig's power synth, I suppose. People would probably expect that this would be first, or, you know, pretty high up, because my channel is pretty much entirely about Bitwig. I love Polygrid. It is not my favorite synth for several reasons. I don't think that it sounds as good as... So there's a qualifying statement here. So you can make Polygrid do anything that you want. You can make it sound like anything. But say you just want to make a pluck sound with some unison on it and just a filter pluck. You're going to be able to do that quicker, and you're going to be able to get a better result quicker in probably another synth. Can you make Polygrid do that? Absolutely. Pretty much the only reason this isn't the top is because sometimes it kind of feels like a bit excessive for what you would want to do. Like if you just want a bit, 99% of the sounds you're going to make are probably subtractive. Maybe not 99%, 60% maybe. If you're just making a subtractive sound, I don't really see the need to pull out a polygrid, so I generally don't. I tend to think of Polygrid as either a kind of a layering tool where I'll use the sampler and some synthesis together to create like crazy sounds, and you can like FM them against each other and stuff like that. So like a layering tool like that. I use it a lot for effects, and also it's really good as an FM synth. So You can set up really complex FM routings. I'm not going to go too deep into Polygroup because I feel like most of the people watching this video are probably pretty familiar with it, and I'm going to be making videos in future where I go pretty into detail on it. But the main reason that I like Polygroup so much is, first of all, the sampler module that you get in here is absurd, the things that you can do with this. So you can basically, this is a wavetable synthesizer, a granular synthesizer, and a sampler all built into one. You can use this to FM oscillators. You can take samples out of it and you can change their phase with some of these phase modules that are here. So like you can use, you know, mirror, shift, sine mod, all of these crazy shaping things to go through that. You can send CV out of here. You can send modulation data at audio rate out of here to affect effects that you've gone afterwards. It's absurd. The only reason it's not first is because I don't use it all the time. It's something that I use like, you know, if I want something specific. So there will be more videos going in depth into Polygroup and some of the cool stuff that you can do with it, but for now, Polygroup is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Also, I said I'd rate them. Maybe I should give them like a qualifying number. Maybe I'll do that at the end where I'll like give them something out of 10. I don't know. We'll see. You probably don't want to watch an entire hour-long video and then realize that I didn't actually rate them. So I'm just going to rate them as I go along. So let's go with Rapid. Rapid is, for me, a 10 out of 10. I love Rapid. Drum Machine's going to be like 10 out of 10 as well. Hive, for what it does, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I'm just handing out these 10 out of 10s. Massive X is like an 8 out of 10, but a really good 8 out of 10. And it would be like an 11 out of 10 if they just fixed it and finished it. Polygroup is like a 15 out of 10, but I just don't use it that much. So, yeah, 15 out of 10 for Polygroup, but not my favorite. So, these ratings are probably not particularly useful to anyone, but anyway. So the next one that I've got here is Serum. What do I need to say about Serum? Serum. Everybody uses Serum. Serum is great. If you go on KVR, everybody's going to say that they hate it because it's cold and digital, but Serum's sick, man. And also, it's pretty much all I would ever want to use to edit wavetables. Nothing else is as good as Serum for editing wavetables. They've got cool new features that they've added recently. Steve Cuda added some cool features recently where you can like sample out of it directly, which is cool. The effects are good except for the reverb, which is shit. The LFOs and envelopes are pretty much as flexible as you'd want them to be. The unison sounds great. There's a massive selection of filters. They don't necessarily sound the best, but they're great. It's Serum. Serum's like Serum. Serum's 10 out of 10. I'm not going to talk about Serum because people know about Serum. Serum's great. Everybody has Serum. You can get it on rent to own as well, which is cool. That's how I got it, actually. So the next one, which is cool. This is new. This is from the Future Audio Workshop, Fall. They make Circle 2, which is a synth I am not a fan of. I tried it out and I didn't. By the way, how did I end up with all these synths? It's just things go on sale and you just buy them. Circle 2, not a fan of it. This is Sublab, which I bought, which is sick. Let me just select it here in the instrument selector. So this is an example of something that I really like, which is when something just does one thing really well. This is an 808 generator thing. You can make sub basses with it as well. It just sounds great. The distortion sounds great. It's got, the whole idea here is that you've got this synth part where you can, it's really simple. You've got a synth here where you can have a sine, a triangle, a saw, or a square wave. That goes through a filter, that goes into a distortion and a compressor, and there's this like multi-band limiter thing that's like kind of like sausage fattener. Then they've got a sampler section where you can select between a bunch of kicks that they've got in here. Let me just solo that and I'll turn off the distortion. So they've got a bunch of kicks in here. You've got some like basic sampling ability as well, but they've got a bunch of different ones that you'd want in here. So you layer that up, and then they've got this X sub thing. This is basically like, how would you explain what this is? So what it does is it generates subharmonics. You can control the harmonics versus the actual sub frequency. And what it does is you can play up the keyboard, and it's going to keep everything at a sub frequency instead of it following the whole way up. So it's like a sub that knows when you've gone too high for it to be a sub anymore, and it goes back to being a sub again, basically. It's really good for 808s. I don't do very much sound design in this at all when I use it. All the presets are like really good and pretty much all you'd want. Anyway, this video is dragging on, so I'm not going to go too into detail on it. That's Sublab. Sublab is sick. It's all I use if I need an 808 sound. You could design kicks in it as well, but it's not my favorite way to do that. I actually do that in Polygroup, so there you go. Next is Faceplant. Also, if I like say something twice or something in here, I'm not really going to go in and edit this video, so sorry. If I say something again, it's a long video. I'm not editing the whole thing, so Faceplant is probably the most powerful synth here. The reason that it's lower than other synths is just because I don't like it for basic stuff. If I'm gonna make like a super saw, even though they added like really crazy unison algorithms recently, if I'm gonna make like a super saw, I prefer to use Hive. A pluck, I prefer to use Hive. Most basses, I prefer to use Rapid. Basic wavetable stuff, I prefer to use Rapid or Serum. This to me is an insane FM synth. I think of this as like FM8 on steroids. You can draw the wavetables, so like you can go through here and you can either draw the shape in here, or you can draw like the harmonics down here, and you can make all sorts of cool stuff. And then the big thing about this is you can just audio rate whatever you want. So like we could take another wavetable oscillator here, and let's just take another wavetable. Let's take this one, and then we could take the output of that wavetable, and we can phase modulate and modulate the pitch of this one. Right, so let's select a simpler wave here for. So you can do crazy FM stuff. You have these pretty flexible like modulators down here that you can use. So you've got this LFO, which is kind of like an MSEG. The modulators are good. I don't prefer them to. I don't adore them, but they're good. I find serums are kind of easier to work with. In general, you've got draw modes and stuff in here. Yeah, they're great. They're all you'd ever need, really. You can save presets for everything in here as well, which is great. What else is there? If you've got any of the kilohertz stuff, it all shows up in here, and you can modulate all this with the same stuff. You can stack a bunch of stuff on here, so you've got all these different kind of filter shapes, you've got distortions. These all go in the generation section. So you could say have a wavetable that is going through a bandpass filter and then going through a high pass filter or whatever you want. That wouldn't make any sense, but you know what I mean. And then you could put that through an overdrive, and then you get, say this shape here or whatever. And then you can take that signal and you can use that to FM your original oscillator. And if you do it that heavily, it'll just be noise. But if you do it more subtly, it won't be noise. That's cool. And then, say you were using an LFO to control how much the FM is happening. You can also use that to control your ring modulator or your, whatever. You can even open up a multipass in here, and you can have like all of the kilohertz effects in here doing some crazy shit. And let's open that up and see what it's doing. So this is like a multiband transient shaper. You could have that on there and you could be modulating a whole bunch of shenanigans that are happening there as well. And why wouldn't you? I don't a lot of the time, actually, and the reason that I don't is because most of the time you don't need to. But if you want to make like insane sounds, this is a very good place to go, and that's why I keep it, because if you can think of something to do, you can do it in Faceplant. Multipass, by the way, even though it's an effect, has Snake in there, so you can play Snake. If you want to do that, that's something that you can do. And I think Faceplant has Space Invaders. Yeah, it does. It has Space Invaders. So that's another feature that you can use. Anyway, I'm not going to play Space Invaders now, but that's Faceplant. The only reason Faceplant isn't higher is because I just don't use it unless I specifically have to use it. So, yeah. Pigments. Pigments. I bought this because I bought a keyboard for Manchuria. And with that, I got Analog Lab. And I got Mini V or something, which isn't even on here. I don't even have it installed. But Analog Lab's pretty good. Got that, and then they had some sale when Pigments 2 came out, and it was like really cheap. So I was like, I'll buy that. It's got pretty much my favorite granular synthesizer that I've ever used in that. But I don't really use granular synthesis that much. I pretty much never end up using this. It's a fantastic... By the way, did I rate Sublab? I didn't rate Sublab. Let me rate Sublab. 10 out of 10 for what it does. Let me rate Faceplant like 17 out of 10. But I don't use it that much. Pigments. I'll rate it beforehand because otherwise I'll probably forget. Pigments is like a 9 out of 10. Something like that. Why don't I use Pigments? I don't know, to be honest. I just never use it. I don't know what it is, but I just don't use it. It's got a fantastic sequencer. Like you can randomize stuff in here. Like you can randomize the notes, the octave, the velocity. You can go mental with the arpeggiator. It's insane. The arpeggiator and the sequencer in this are insane. Probably the most powerful in any synth there is, and you can just... It's really good, okay? I just never use it. I use Cthulhu a lot of the time. The modulators, pretty much the best that you're going to find. It's really well laid out. It's really easy to, like, modulate a bunch of stuff really quickly. You just select one of the modulators, and then you can just, like, tie it to whatever you want, or you can select this, and then you can... So what you can do is you can select the parameter here, and you can hit the plus, and that'll let you add it to as many of these different modulators as you want. So you have these function generators, which are like, you know, editable envelopes and stuff like that. It's a great synth, man. It's a great synth. Why don't I use it? Let me see. Why don't I use it? I have too much other stuff, probably. That's probably it, honestly. So you've got like a bunch of these like shaping things that you can do as well. So you can phase modulate individual parts of the wave. You can FM it, wavefold. Yeah, it's just a really good synth. You can quantize the pitch, so you can go up and like do cool stuff with like you can pitch up in a major chord formation or something like that. Yeah, it's a really good synth. I don't know why I use it. I just don't use it, I suppose. I prefer the sound of Hive and Rapid. I generally like Cthulhu as my sequencer. And I don't use granular synthesis that much. And if I do, I tend to do it in the sampler and Bitwig. I think this is a great synth that I just don't use because I prefer other things for individual stuff. But at the same time as I never use this, I would probably say that if you're going to buy your first synth, you should probably get this one. Because lots of people are going to be using it. It sounds great. Integrates an Analog Lab. Great presets. Great sequencer. Great bank of stuff that comes with it. So you've got like so in this wavetable here, you've got like a bunch of different wavetables that they add. You can import your own wavetables. You can't create wavetables, but you can import them. You can if you go to the sampler engine here, they've got a bunch of different samples that you can layer on top of, you know, the synthesis that you're doing, and you can use granular synthesis on them. Yeah, I mean, you probably should buy this, but like I never use it. The effects are really good as well. They're not my favorite. I don't know, I feel like I don't tend to be as creative with the effects because they're on a separate page. They feel a bit like far away. I don't know what I mean. I just never use this. It's really good, but I never use it. So that's Pigments. Great synth. You should buy it. Now we've got Phase 4. This is a Bitwig synth. This is great, man. So we'll have a little bit of a look at this. Phase 4 is a phase shaping, phase distortion synthesizer. It's got a bunch of different waveforms that you can use. Really similar to FM. So you've got these 4 oscillators here. You can change the shape of them. So you can see here, this blue one is set to a sine wave. You could set it to various kind of DX7 inspired shapes. You've got this formant thing here that you can use. You have that on all the oscillators, so you can have that here as well. And then you can FM each of the oscillators to each other. So, and you can also change, say you could change the ratios between each one. So let's change this yellow one way up. And then let's change the shape, say, and we could add some of the formant shenanigans there. You can also send them out individually. So let's pitch this one way down and make this a sub. And the filter sounds really good, so. And you've got a nice drive section in here as well. This is pretty low down, not because it's bad, it's a great synth. Like, again, like with this Bitwig stuff, like, you probably know already from my videos, like, you can do anything with just the stock Bitwig stuff. You don't need to have all these third-party plugins, but my favorite thing to use this for is, like, pluck basses. I think it sounds really good doing stuff like that. Bell sounds, all of the typical, like, FM-y kind of stuff. Back up your files, no. All the typical like FM sounds, this does great. I just don't use it all the time. It's not my first choice for that stuff. There's no reason it shouldn't be. It just doesn't happen to be. This is probably the synth that I use the most out of all of the Bitwig stuff. Just like I use this in tracks, like not constantly, but if I want like a plucky bass or a bell or something like that, I will actually reach for this. Polygroup I only really reach for if I want to do something really complicated. And yeah, I am trying to change that though. So I am trying to move towards using Polygroup, using the stuff that's in Bitwig more. I use the Bitwig effects all the time. Like I use them all the time, but the synths not so much. Not because they're bad, just because I'm used to working with other synths because I've worked with them while I've been in other DAWs before Bitwig. So that's Phase 4. Phase 4 is sick, okay? I feel like I'm not getting this passed enough. Like it's low down on the list, but it's only low down on the list because I don't use it all the time, but it's sick. You can get all of the, like, those dubstep, crazy dubstep sounds that you want out of this. The only thing I really dislike it for is chords. Getting unison-y kind of sounds out of this is kind of fiddly. I don't use it for that. Anything other than just stereoizing and slightly detuning the oscillators, I don't really want to get involved with because I just don't. This is a great synth. I'm going to stop talking about it now. Next is Massive. Oh yeah, did I rate? I think I rated Pigments. Phase 4. Phase 4 is a 10 out of 10, man. That's a great synth. I know it just seems like I'm rating everything either 10 or absurdly above 10. But Phase 4 is a great synth. You should use it. It's brilliant. Yeah, 10 out of 10. You see, I feel like some of the synths are like low down and it makes it look like they're not that good, but like they are really good, and it's just that I have other stuff that I'm more used to using, but like I could just as easily use those things. I'm gonna stop ranting about that. Phase 4 is great. Massive. I use Massive a lot. Like Massive is probably not the best synth out there anymore. Massive aliases, which we all know it does. And Massive just sounds really good, and I really like using it, and it's really useful, like for a lot of things. If I want to do like some distorted bass thing, or a simple pluck, or just a white noise sweep thing, I'm gonna use Massive. Massive sounds so good. Native Instruments stuff sounds good, guys. I know it's hard to say because they're like this big, like corporate company, and we all want to really love things that aren't that. But Native Instruments stuff, it always sounds good. Battery's great. Their samples are great. FM8, it's probably my favorite synth ever. Massive sounds great. It still sounds great. Massive still 10 out of 10. Massive might even be better than Massive X. It's not, but it's more usable. I still find for a lot of things the Massive is quicker than Serum as well. I just love Massive. Massive's sick. And you know, you get it free with all the keyboards as well. So like if you buy I think like one of those A series complete control keyboards, you get Massive and like the Gentleman, and like that's good stuff. That's all you need. Buy one of those keyboards, get like a Focusrite interface or something like that. That's going to give you like addictive keys. So they give you good software with that. That's good stuff. It's a lot better than like I think I started producing like 7 years ago, and like I remember like really wanting, well, probably like 8 years ago, I remember like really wanting Massive and stuff, and it was like $200 at the time. Man, being able to get that with just a keyboard and stuff. Massive was it back not so long ago. I think it's like all about Serum now, but Massive is good. Anyway, Massive is 10 out of 10. I don't care what anyone says. A lot of people, there's like, I think Massive was the first synth that like people hate it. Like people had this, oh, that sounds like really snide kind of, like people thought they were better than you if you use Massive because it was like an EDM kind of synth. And then I think people moved to Serum, like especially if you like read forums and stuff like that, there's like a lot of hate towards people who use those synths. And like nothing, I think Nexus is probably the worst, but I remember a lot of that from Massive as well. Like if you use Massive, people like look down at it. You have to use Zebra 2, man. you're not really a real producer unless you're using Zebra 2 to make all your sound. Yeah, that was a pointless rant. So, FM8. FM8 is just like one of those things where if they just updated the GUI, this would probably be number one. I love FM8. I think FM8 is like, FM8 sounds so good, man. It sounds so good. I love the way they have the unison and like the digital and analog stuff on the master. The effects sound really good. It's so easy to set up complex modulations, much easier than any other synth. Even like Faceplant, it's pretty simple, but you can set up just like the most insane. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Oh no, I'm not. I'm just not FM in the right thing. So like, you can set up the most insanely complex modulation. So we can have, you know, F feeding into itself, and then feeding into E, and we can put the ratio of E up. And then we can feed D into E, but also into F, and also a little bit into itself, and then also feed F back into that. And then let's change the... Let's just bring these values down a bit because they're getting a bit crazy. Right, and then you can take like C, and you can, you know, I'm not making a good sound here, you know, but if you wanted to, you could. And then like you can feed that in there, and you can feed C back into itself, and then you could put like C through the filter, and then also put F through the filter, and then also send C out by itself, and then also put it through the noise. And then you could take an input, and you can feed that just into C, but also a little bit into, like, it's you know, I'm not making a good sound there, but you can see, like, you can just do whatever with this thing. to set that up in any other synth, like a modulation that complex and that nuanced, where there's tiny amounts of FM happening between different things, and then something's going through a filter, and then it's going through noise, and then it's going up through another, you know, FM and another oscillator, and you can't do that simply with really much else. So yeah, I really like FM8. The only reason that I don't use FM8 constantly is because on bigger screens it's borderline unusable because they haven't updated the GUI. Like if they kept the exact same sound engine and updated the GUI, this would be number one. I love FM8. FM8's great. A filter sounds really good. The effects sound really good. You've got the master section where you can add like a bunch of voices and like detune them, pan them out. You've got analog, which is gonna like drift the oscillators, and digital, which is like kind of like aliasing. And all the effects sound really good. The reverb isn't great, but it's not bad. And then you got like psych, delay. Just love FM8. The sequencer, the arpeggiator, sorry, not the sequencer. The arpeggiator is great. You can randomize stuff here as well. Like it's people, I feel like people still they underestimate FM8, like because it's so old. I still use FM8 all the time, and the reason that I don't use it for literally everything is because the GUI is too small, and I've got bad sight. So FM8 is like, I would say like a 26, honestly. And like, yeah, it doesn't have wavetables or anything like that, but like, you don't need them, man. You don't need them. FM8 is like 26 out of 10. Nah, it's not. It's like an 8 out of 10, and it would be a 10 out of 10 if they just updated the GUI. Yeah, so that's FM8, and it's not as good as Rapid. I prefer Rapid, but for FM8 is still a nuts, man. Citrus, I think, is really good as well. I used to use that when I was in FL Studio. It might even be better than FM8, but FM8 is what I use, and I really like it. So now we've got Break Tweaker. Break Tweaker's cool. So Break Tweaker is like sample playback mostly. The thing about isotope plugins is like, that they seem to be going on sale really cheap, and the only reason they're going on sale really cheap is because the GUIs are really old looking. So this looks like it was programmed in 1986, but I bought this for €10. Okay, there's gigabytes of samples that come with this, and they're really good samples. Like, I use the Break Tweaker samples more than I use my like Leviathan samples or anything. I use these all the time. So first of all, you've got the good samples. Second of all, I'll show you the like sound engine in a second, but second of all, the sequencer in here is like really unique. So if we preview here, you know, you can have these patterns be all different lengths and stuff, and then you can ratchet stuff. Like, you can even do it in like terms of, you can do it in time, you can do it in like notes and everything. So yeah, you can get like really odd sound and rhythm things out of there. So yeah, I what I use this for a lot is actually, I'm just gonna go through. I really like the cinematic textures one. What I use this for a lot is I just hit the preview button, go through the patterns. And I'll just like sample this out and like just cut it up, because they're really weird, like glitchy. They're good for fills. There's a lot of great fills in here. We're probably not going to come by a single one because I'm looking for them, but there's like, if you just go through here, there's like a lot of weird stuff. Like, that sounds really yeah, so like there's a lot of really weird stuff, and all of them have like a load of patterns in it. And then I tend to just basically sample that and then cut bits of it up and use it as fills. I use this all the time. I use this like pretty much every track. Then the sound design element on why I consider it a synth is you've got like this sampler in here, and look at all the samples this comes with. Like, I paid €10 for this. Okay, it comes with like all these acoustic kicks. Now I wish there was preview, but whatever. Who cares? You know, you come up all these acoustic kicks, all these like regular like 808 kicks and stuff like that. You've got like, you know, dubstep kicks, electro, you know, specific ones, and then you've got like that many for like snares and claps, and there's loads of stuff in here. And then there's like cinematic textures, there's like black octopus and beatport sounds in here, and then you can take those and you can, you know, there's like basic sampling in here, so you can start and end time. You've got these envelopes, so you can, you know, change the envelope. You got a filter and a distortion, just basic stuff, right? And then you've got the synth module here, and this synth module is like, you can make your own kicks and stuff in here. So like you can put noise in here, you can have a triangle or a sign or something like that, and then you can use the envelopes to make your own kick decay. And you could have, say, 2 sampler engines running with one that has like a noisy top end and one that has like a more of a thump to it or something like that, and then you can put them together. It's really good for that, and it's really good for layering like snares and claps and stuff like that, and then putting them into a weird sequence and then resampling it, getting weird stuff. 10 out of 10 again. Am I ever going to give a bad review? Probably not. So now we've got Reactor. Let's close off the weird stuff that Reactor decides I should listen to right away. Just gonna put form in here. Okay, so Reactor is obviously like Reactor and does loads of stuff. I'm just gonna talk about the 2 instruments that I tend to use the most. I really like this one, Form. I don't like get into programming Reactor things. It's not. I'm not on that level. I use this for, I really like Form. So like you can take, say, let's take like a fill here, and let's put that in, a little sample, right? And then it like turns that into an oscillator. Let's take a longer one. And you can like set loop points and stuff as well, right? And then you can, let's say, go into the curve editor here, and let's change this up a bit so you can edit like how it plays through the sample as an oscillator. Probably not going to come up with a single good sound here, but I promise you, usually I do. So yeah, you turn it into an oscillator, and then you come in here and you can like shape it all weird and stuff, and deform it, and FM it, multiply it. Then you've got these weird effects in here, like saturation and stuff, dynamics, delay. Right, and let's just go to speed, and let's anyway, I'm taking too long. It's cool. Okay, so you can do that with like any sample you want, and you usually get good results. Then rounds is cool, but I don't really use it, but it is cool. And where's the other one? I use this kick one a lot, the track 1 kick thing. I think that sounds pretty good. I'm not gonna pull it in here though, because it's getting kind of long up in here. Okay, and Razor is the other one I really like. So Razor, it's an additive synth, so the filter and all that stuff is additive. So let's get a more filtery kind of thing. So there's all these different algorithms that you can use for different filters and stuff like that. It's got these weird detuning things that are done with the partials. And then it's got these stereo effects that are all generate it with partials as well. So it's synthesis. So the reverb isn't like a reverb, it's a synth, but it sounds like reverb, right? So you get sounds out of this that you really can't get out of anything else. And that's why I like it. So now we're going to move on. Reactor is like clearly a 10 out of... Am I ever going to give something that's not a 10 out of 10? Reactor is like a 10 out of 10 as well. I don't use it that much just because I don't, but it's really good, you know. I feel like this is just me realizing that I do actually like everything I have, and I don't really not want to use any of them, but I'm trying to cut down and have less stuff so that I can focus more. Next one is Zebra. I'm not going to talk about Zebra. People know about Zebra. Zebra's been around forever. This is the first synth I bought, the first synth I ever bought, and I never use it. It's really good, and maybe if I was like doing sound design for video games and stuff like that, or like orchestrally type things, I would use this more. It's got the Diva filters, which sound really good. So if I go and turn one of these on, I'll add it in here. I haven't used this in so long, I probably forget how to do it, but this is Zebra HZ, by the way. It's the upgraded one. I bought this at the time because it was my only synth, and I really wanted the Diva filters because I really liked how Diva sounded, and they do sound really good. So yeah, that's Zebra. Why don't I use Zebra? I don't like it for anything because I have another tool that does what I would want it to do slightly better than Zebra, and Faceplant was kind of the last nail in the coffin of where I really didn't need Zebra to do anything. I prefer the FM and FM8. I prefer the subtractive synthesis of Rapid and Hive. I find the filters in Rapid don't sound quite as good as the Diva filters, but in a mix they're comparable enough that I don't mind. And yeah, I just don't use Zebra that much, even though it's like probably the best synth out there, but I don't use it that much. I really don't like dealing with the wavetables and stuff in Zebra. I just don't like them. It's still a great synth. I never use it, and I don't really intend to start using it again, to be honest. Lots of people are going to be triggered by that because I know a lot of people really like Zebra, and I like it, I just don't use it. So that's Zebra. HY Poly, I'm super briefly going to talk about this because, by the way, Zebra is like 8 out of 10 for me, but probably 10 out of 10 for most other people. HY Poly, I did a whole video about this. It came out recently. It's really cheap. If I didn't use Bitwig, I would use this all the time, but I use Bitwig, so I don't. And the reason I don't is because an awful lot of what makes this special is stuff that we have in Bitwig. The synth sounds great. Like, it really sounds... I don't know if this is still like $60 or whatever, but it was when I made the review about it. And what you get for that is insane. Like, it's the same price as like... I think Synth Master is even more expensive than it. But you've got all these MIDI effects, like... It's just really good. Like, you've got a dual arpeggiator in here, and it's like really versatile. And then you can send, like, you've got note echoes, and it's like Bitwig and Ableton. It's got a similar thing. You've got scales. Like, the note effects in here are ridiculous. Then you've got the audio effects. These are all really good. You've got different kinds of distortions and overdrives. You've got different filter types. It's really super similar to what we've got in Bitwig, and I made a video about this because for the price it's insane. You could easily make an entire track just using this. Yeah, definitely good job, guy that made this. Very good. It's got actually a really surprisingly good preset browser as well. Like, you can rate things and you can set up different folders and stuff like that. It's very cool, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Okay. Now we have Bitwig's organ. I did a video where I made a drop with this. It's completely capable. I just don't really use organ sounds that much. You can use it to make other stuff, and you probably should. I like using stuff like this when I'm... sometimes I think it's really good to like try and limit yourself an absurd amount for fun and to see what you come up with. Organ's sick, like for an organ thing. I mean, this sounds like I have tested this against some of the Arturia stuff, like their modeled organs and stuff. You can get like pretty similar sounds out of this organ, and it's pretty good. So you've got like pure and rich and full and whatever, but I don't use it that much, but it's really good. Polysynth. It's probably going to be pretty controversial here. I don't like polysynth. I never use polysynth. It's not bad. It's just all of the things that I want it to be good at, it's not good at, and then it's good at things that I don't really care about. So, I don't like the sound of the unison. I'm sorry, I just don't think it sounds that good. Yeah, I just don't think that polysynth really sounds that good. I think the filters in polysynth don't sound as good as all the other filters in Bitwig. The only thing I do like is I'm going to make a qualifying statement after this, because it's going to be people like, oh, you can get polysynth to sound great, and you absolutely can get polysynth to sound great. I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to have to put the time in to do it. If you put like random modulators on the pitch of the oscillators and you constantly modulating things, you can get polysynth to sound great. Same with anything in Bitwig, but like I just can't be bothered because I can go and do something else. But could you make an entire track with polysynth and have it sound great? Absolutely, you could. I just don't. The cool thing is you've got all these different distortion modes that you can put through the filter. So that's cool. I just don't like it. I'll turn it off now. I know a lot of people are going to be mad about that, because I know a lot of people really like polysynth, but I just don't enjoy it. It doesn't mean it's bad. Like it's fine. I just don't like it. Anna 2. This is coming down to the stuff. We're getting down to the stuff that just came bundled with stuff that I actually wanted. Anna 2 is great. Like, it sounds really good. You get lots of content with it. I never use it. It has really good presets. If you're looking for like EDM presets, there's like a bunch in there. It sounds really good. Like, there's no reason for me to not use it, but I just don't. I use the Slate. I really like the Virtual Mix Rack, and a lot of the Slate plugins actually. I like the Lustrous Plates one as well, and the Delay. I don't remember the names of any of them, and the Limiter trio thing. I use those, and this came with it, and I've used it once or twice. It's probably got the best arpeggiator, maybe, and you've got this like chord mode that you can turn on, and you can set up different chords for different notes. You've got this arpeggiator that's really similar to Cthulhu, where you can select, it's like polyphonic, and you can select individual notes. It's got a really decent selection of filters. You've got like Moogie ones that are like Oberheims. You've got these valve filters. You've got like Formant and all that kind of stuff. It's really good. You've got like a whole bunch of different wavetables that you can go through. I think it comes with quite a lot of samples as well. And a lot of people use this as like their main deal. I'd probably use this if I didn't like Rapid so much. It's just there's too much crossover with a synth that I already had. But I'm probably not doing this justice, because you can actually get this synth to sound really, really good. And I've heard people do entire tracks with this. It's really powerful, yeah. And you've got all these samples in here as well. It's crazy. Yeah, it's great. You should probably buy this. I don't use it. I'm sure most people who have it probably have it because of the Slate thing, but it was probably pretty popular before that. I just hadn't really heard of it until then. So this thing, Sonic Academy, they make Kick 2, I think, as well, which is that kick synthesizer that everybody uses, which is really good as well. I don't have that. Kilohertz one, this came bundled with the Kilohertz plugins. I don't use it. It's like a simple kind of a subtractive synthesizer that I use Hive for all that stuff. I'm sure it sounds good. I've put it in here just because I had it and I wanted to be a completionist, but I don't use it at all. The rating system has kind of fallen off because I feel like it would be unfair of me to rate these when I don't use them. I don't use this. But it's really good. I have like used it once or twice and it sounds good. I just wouldn't pick it up for anything. Absinthe is a fantastic synth with fantastic effects and a fantastic sound generation section, fantastic way of modulating things with the envelopes, and a synth that I am absolutely never going to use because I hate the GUI and I hate the workflow. So some people, it's their favorite synth. And I can completely see how it could be, but I just never want to get involved with it at all. FM4, it's fine. It's an FM synth. Like, you can get good sounds out of it. Yeah, it does loads of stuff. I don't use it because I have better alternatives. But if you wanted to do FM, you could use that. You can also use Phase 4, which is a better option probably for most sounds like that, but it's not the same thing. So if you want if you want basically the most basic form of FM you can have, you can use FM4. It feels a little bit feature lacking compared to other stuff. One thing about Phase 4 as well that I want to say is, like, I feel like Phase 4, if they just added, so to this, right, this, I know I'm saying just add it like I'm a programmer and I know how much work it takes to add something like this. But if they added the ability to draw your own waveforms like you have in Operator to this would then be better than Operator because it's got a more flexible routing system. And it's got like a really flexible, I'm probably being unfair on it. Like, there's a lot you can do with it. I would just always go for FM8 if I wanted to do something like this. But if they added the ability to draw your own wavetables to FM4, or your own wavetables, your own waveforms like an Operator, this would kill Operator. Like, it would be way better than Operator. And Operator is sick. Operator is one of the things that I was most sad about leaving Ableton for because I loved Operator so much. But yeah, Bitwig add, just let me go in here. Let me click on this one right here. Oh, that turns it off. Let me click on, add a little button here. Let me click on it. Let me go in and let me draw on some partials. Okay. Then this is going to move way up. It's going to go way, way up. Okay. Synth Master. Finally. Synth Master is a very affordable synth. That I don't like. I bought it because it was cheap. It was on sale. And it always gets top of that like Music Radar best synths review thing. And I thought, I'll get this because everybody's like, this is sick. And I just never have been able to make a sound in it that I liked. And I don't like any of the presets. And I think it's really quite awkward to use. And I don't... It's got all these like different forms of synthesis that are equally as awkward as each other. They added like drag and drop modulation. I mean, if this was your only synth, I'm sure you could like do whatever you wanted with it. But like compared to the other synths that I have, I just don't find it that usable. I found it to be really buggy for me as well. Like on pretty much every system I've had issues with Synth Master, like crashing or something like that. Maybe I'm the only one having these issues, but I haven't had those issues with anything else. So Synth Master for me is going to be and yes, by the way, before people tell me, you know, oh, well, if you don't like the sound of it, maybe you need to change it off draft. I know about the modes, okay? You change it to best, okay? I know about that. The unison sounds pretty good in that, though. Okay, so, and it's got a pretty good arpeggiator that you can load MIDI files into, but you can do that in Rapid too, so I don't need that. Again, there's probably a lot of the fact that I just really am biased towards loving Rapid and using it for everything. That probably makes me see some of these great synths as not so good synths. Not that they're not so good. Nah, I don't like Synthmaster, but Anna's sick. Like if I didn't have Synth, or if I didn't have Rapid, I would probably use Anna all the time. Yeah, that's pretty much that's all that I have. That's all that I have for you in my collection. I would love to go more into depth into some of these if you'd like to see it, especially Rapid, which I think is the best out there, man. Also, like, I didn't even talk about like the absurd amount of multi samples you get with Rapid, or like I sound like I work for them, but honestly I just really like the synth. You can also like load in sounds and resynthesize them into these like drone things. Rapid's great. I really like Rapid. That's the moral of the story. So that was my 500 subscriber special. If anybody is at this end of the video, which I doubt, give it a like, and thanks very much for subscribing. Goodbye.